Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So a little bit of a different update this week. We've solved a problem that's been annoying us for a long time now. We have 10261 roller coaster as part of our fairground rides, and I have it motorized, and I wanted to have it run continuously in the fairground without interruption. The only problem with that is I could never get the chain to operate properly. I either had it too long or too tight, and the chain would snap if it was too tight, and it would also cause other problems. So people looking at this now will say that chain is too loose, and yeah, it is too loose. But any tighter and we run into different problems, and that is that it pulls the pillars together that are holding up the track, and then in effect splits the track. So I can show how what I mean by that now. So that this is the chain and it's a little bit too loose, as we can see. Any tighter than that and you end up actually pulling these uprights together, and then the track, as you can see, slowly starts sliding upwards and splitting. And then when you run a car up, so I'll run a car up here now, excuse me, and when you run a car up, the cars start sliding off the loose track, and you could have it that it's the front car derails or the second car derails, like that. So this is the problem. So on the instructions it shows one rubber ring here, and that rubber ring actually is used in one loop around the mechanism down here as it is installed. Now I'm an electrician by trade, not a mechanical engineer, so I'm not exactly sure how all this works. But what I've discovered is if we take that loop off, and if we halve the length of that loop by basically crossing it over in a figure of 8 and reinstalling it, which is a finicky and tricky little job. As you can see here, I had to use the tweezers to get it onto the mechanism. So that in effect has halved the overall length of that rubber band. Now if we put everything back together, we can see that without shortening the chain, what we've done is we've put a bit more tension on it. Now some people might say that's the same as putting in an extra link, but it's not, because no matter how many times I've put in the links, how many times I've tried to change it, it's never worked properly for me. However, this time around this seems to work. So we can see one car heading up the track and then another car. Now I would have loved to have both cars running on this simultaneously, but we've discovered a different little problem with that. And look, it's not a big deal and I don't mind. So when we set off the two cars separately here, so I'm using the hand crank to start off both cars, and I've left the hand crank out just to show the cars coming around and stopping, set off the first car again, and then set off the second car and let it run. We'll push in the hand crank stopper, and this is running roughly 25 minutes later, and we'll have a cut there, and the cars catch up with one another. And as you can see, the second car actually hits the first car and then stops at the bottom of the track because it doesn't get a chance to latch onto the chain. And then the second car comes around, or the first car comes around and pushes the second car back onto the track. So that's an issue with both cars running. With single car running, and I know people aren't going to watch the rest of the video now, but with single car running, it runs permanently, non-stop, all the time. So I've left the hand crank out there, we'll push it in, and from here on out to the end of the video I've put a hyperlapse on it. I've sped it up I think 8 times now, so it's just a blur, but it was running for, as I said, with two cars it runs for 25 minutes, around about that, until they catch up with one another, and until they bump into one another. But with a single car it will run pretty much forever, and there's no issue with the track, there's no issue with the chain. It's absolutely perfect, and all it was tightening that rubber band and pretty much making it half the length that it was. So yeah, look, that's just a fix that I found. If anybody else is having problems with their coaster, hopefully, well, hopefully I wasn't the only one. So that's it from me, guys. So until the next time, see you later.